This is Earthquake. This is Bob Martin, the RC sub guy with the Nautilus, drydocks.com. It is Thursday, April 23rd, 2020. And this is yet another RC sub guy Nautilus Dry Docks live stream, hoping to chat with you guys about RC submarines. We are going to hold off to get into the meat and potatoes for a few more minutes until we get a few more people showing up. I can see one person has signed in. 2 people have signed in. Good to see you guys. Man, it feels like it has been forever since had a chance to do these live broadcasts. So much has happened over the course of the last 30 days. It seems like 3 months since we've done this last time. But I'm glad to be back into the swing of it. I'm looking forward to chatting with you guys, talking about projects that we got, and answering your questions about RC submarines. The hobby technical questions that you might have. Now's your chance. So by all means, if you have any questions about RC submarines or the hobby in general, that's what we're here for. Let's see if we can get you some answers. Originally, I was going to try and use my laptop with my new webcam, but I guess I should have tried it out before 5 minutes before I was supposed to go live. So I'm going on my cell phone. Again, hopefully you guys can see and hear me well. Let's start off with some updates, some project updates. What the heck have I been working on in the shop? If you guys have not subscribe to my newsletter, by all means you need to make sure to do that, because I do post updates for everything that I have going on over the course of the previous 30 days in the newsletter, talking about upcoming specials, new projects, new products, and that kind of thing. So make sure that you subscribe. That's kind of important. The other thing that I wanted to point out is if you go to my forums, that's forum.rc-sub.com. The link is on my website. I have started to post up quasi-daily updates, and a lot of people have said that they really enjoy it. Kind of shows you what I did over the course of the last 24 hours in the shop there. So by all means, check that out. The title of the forum, it's under the general forum section, and it's yesterday's work is the topic of that thread. So you can check out everything that I did the previous 24 hours or sometimes 48 hours if I don't get a chance to update there. By all means, check it out. So let's on that topic a little bit. I just wanted to let you know, man, with this whole COVID scare that's going on right now, the COVID situation, I have to say, and perhaps unsurprisingly, you guys have taken it upon yourselves to fill the time with RC submarine construction, and I'm exceptionally grateful for that. What I'm actually finding right now is on a daily basis, I'm probably sending out between 50 and 75 emails to individual people talking about product questions about RC submarines and that kind of thing. I just want to put that in perspective for you guys. It means basically I'm spending 2 to 3 hours just replying to email correspondence. That's all I've been doing for 2 to 3 hours per day over the course of the last few weeks, and that's pretty incredible. Fortunately, a lot of you guys have been pulling the trigger, buying RC submarine stuff, RC submarine kits, RC submarine gear, and all of that stuff. So that's exceptionally good to see. We need to grow this hobby, so thanks to everybody for doing that. We got some cool stuff lined up. We're going to talk about the projects that I've got on the bench. We're going to talk about RC Submarine battery technology, and basically anything else that you guys want to line up as a topic for conversation there. As usual, as per usual, we are going to start out with a bit of a project update. So we're going to take a look at some stuff that I got on the bench, and we're going to start with the big German Type 21 RC submarine project that has been going on for like forever. I've made some vast progress with that particular boat. So let's take a look at that right now. I'm going to switch the camera around. So this is a 1/30th scale German Type 21 RC submarine. It was a one-off hull built by a gentleman out of Germany, and this is how it sits right now. Everything inside in terms of the running gear has been scratch built. So there's been nothing that sort of out of the box that I've been able to leverage. Let's start at the stern here. We've got the linkages are all in place here. We can see this belt drive rudder system that's been implemented, and then we've got our rear dive planes here as well. Got these beautiful like 2-inch diameter props. Run through a bulkhead here, and then you'll see that we've got a split and another set of bulkheads right here. This entire submarine, which is almost 9 feet long, breaks into 3 sections for transport. And this is one of the seams right here. And if you look really close, you can see that seam right there. But from anything more than, a couple of feet away, you certainly can't see it. And you can see these brackets inside there, and these stainless wing nuts that bolt everything together. Right here is where the rear power and control module sits, and I'll show that to you in a minute. We've got an emergency gas backup system here, and we've got twin ballast tanks. They are spliced together here, so they share air so that they both fill and empty in parallel at the same time. Vent via independent solenoids. The center section here is open, and that is because if we look over here, we can see the conning tower, the sail there, with the operational periscope system. So that's what goes in that middle here. Right here is where the forward control module sits, and that's got 4 servo outputs to control retracting dive planes in the front, and in theory the operational torpedo launchers. And nestled underneath the bottom there are a pair of 1,100 gallon per hour bilge pumps, and those are what make up the bow thrusters in this particular boat. So that project has been going on here. Here's the control modules. This is the rear control module, and this was all basically put on to me by a gentleman by the name of Ed Torrell, who found these boxes and used this design methodology for his 48 scale skipjack submarine kit, and I stole his idea. The cool thing about this, if you guys are familiar with dry hull submarines, they have like an opening with a plexiglass cover with like 100 bolts around the outside. These particular containers, put out by a company called S3, are rated to 80 feet of depth. So certainly more than we will ever go with these submarines. And the cool thing about it, pop the latches open, and there are your guts. All set in there, completely sealed up, again, in both sections. They're connected together by this spaghetti mess of servo cables and all of that fun stuff. But we're going to get this all installed and set up and ready to go. It's 90% of the way there. I'm getting really, really excited. Talking about 21s, let's take a look at this thing hiding underneath here. For those of you who've followed Otto out of the Czech Republic, this is a result of the 3D files that he offers for sale and that I offer for sale on my website at thenautilusdrydocks.com. This is, I think, just shy of $600. when you buy it, and that may seem steep for 3D files, but what you actually get with that are all of this cool stuff as well. You get all of the periscopes, running hardware, and most importantly, this beautiful brass Photoetch that goes with it. And I will say as well, what does come with it is these gorgeous assembly drawings, all to scale. And there's like 4 sheets of it in full size. They're worth framing and mounting on your wall, by the way. They're absolutely gorgeous. This is a very cool boat. This is printed in PLA plastic. When I have the chance, I'm going to get around to installing the Photoetch, getting it all set up and together. So 30th scale, 48th scale on the ground over there. Speaking of 48th scale, let's see here. This is a DK Models German Type 7 in 1/48 scale. It's a beautiful little boat. DK Models is a gentleman by the name of Dan Catcher from Vancouver, Canada, who put these kits out quite a while ago. But I came into possession of this kit, and it came with a cylinder, a 3-inch cylinder, but it was a very, very old school watertight cylinder. It is now being repowered and completely refit with this new modular subdriver system that we now offer. Taking a look at this thing here right now, this has got the gear splitter in it with a massive brushless motor that powers it all. It's going to have automatic pitch control. The neat thing about this, if you guys are familiar with the old style of subdriver, they were all one polycarbonate tube, and that made access to the internal components somewhat tricky. But you can see here I've got it apart because I've been doing some upgrades to it for this particular build. It's exceptionally easy to get to all of the parts. You can remove this bulkhead. You've got access to the ballast control servo, everything right in there. The ballast tank comes completely apart, and you've also got the same thing for the interior here as well. And the cool thing about it, this forward bulkhead comes complete with forward mounted servos. So you've got a bow plane output and, for example, a torpedo tube or a torpedo shutter output as well. And this is out of the box. It comes like that. As you get it, these tanks are actually 12 inches long, and the electronics and battery compartments are 8.5 inches, and you can cut them to any size that you want. The other cool thing about this, because it is modular, you can go from this standardized 2.5 inch motor compartment to either a 2.5 inch, 3 inch, or 3.75 inch diameter ballast tank, because, as we've talked before, you want it as fat and as short as you can get it, so that you don't have that water sloshing around. So we're really, really excited about that. We're going to be bringing out 3-inch compartments as well as 3.75 inch compartments in the nearish future-ish. So stay tuned for that. Let's just take a look at this DK Models boat here. Beautiful brass props. This is a photo etched deck that the gentleman who had this kit before me put together. He's got some little scale figures and everything. It's a beautifully detailed tower on it. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous kit. What I actually ended up having to do, because originally I kept the original 12-inch ballast tank, and it was almost double the size that I needed to. So I needed to cut that down, and we're going to be running it now with the smaller ballast tank. So we're going to be trimming that out tomorrow. DK Models 1/48 Type 7 submarine. And then we got this over here. If you, again, were on the forum and you were following along, you'll have seen this project. If you're an old timer who's been part of the subcommittee, for example, you may recognize this boat. It originally started life as a Holland 6 hull that David Merriman III won at a subcommittee raffle years and years and years ago. He did not like the looks of it, didn't like the kit very much, and so he kit bashed it into the Bat Sub and ran it for many, many years successfully. It was gifted to me a few months ago, and I in turn gifted it to my son Logan, who is 17 years old, and he has undertaken the complete restoration of this boat. So it's got a completely new paint job, weathering, waterline, LED lighting, and much more. Let's see, let me just see here if this is going to work. Let's turn on the radio and we'll power it on. Oh, I don't think I have the battery hooked up, so that's not going to work. Otherwise, I would have showed you the lights. So, but it's got some super high-powered LED lights. This is like a 10mm LED light in the front. It's got blue LEDs in the conning tower and another hyper white LED in the back. We took it into the pool to trim it out today, and it is the most beautiful boat to drive. It is so much fun. Let's talk about some 3D printing projects I've got going on. This is actually going to be the newest product. This is the proof of concept. It's not in final vision, but this is a 72nd scale SSN571 Nautilus. This is printed in Eco ABS, which is a modified version of PLA plastic, but it's much more durable and easier to work with. But this is the 571 Nautilus, the first nuclear-powered submarine. And the thing I love most about this is this stern. I absolutely love the control surfaces. This one is all rigged up with all the linkages and everything ready to go. I'll be letting this go, by the way, fairly cheap. Because I'll be printing the actual production version here fairly quick. So if you're interested in a 571 Nautilus hull, this one will be available either in its current form or as I get it finished up and painted. And in the background here, let's see if anybody can identify that. Any guesses what this is going to be? It's something I've wanted to build for forever. Any guesses? It's not the whole thing. It's just the bow. Oh, we got 10 seconds. No. Nautilus, yeah. From the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen with Sean Connery. One of the most unrealistic submarines that you'll ever see in a movie, but one of the coolest designs that you're ever going to see. So I've got hull section number 5 on the printer right now. The interesting thing about this boat, and I fully intend to make it completely operational, by the way, check out the width. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. It's basically like a scimitar sword, and gets a little fatter at the back, but you know, we're going to see. We're going to stretch my engineering skills to the limit, and we'll see what I can make happen. But it's going to be 1/250th scale, because in the movie it was something ridiculous like 350 meters in length. But those are the 3D printing projects that I have going on right now. And the other projects. I just finished the Japanese Kairu. And if you guys follow my YouTube channel, which I'm assuming you probably do, you'll have seen that I got that one completely operational. That was a super fun boat to drive, by the way, and it went together really, really well. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, Japanese Kairu, it's one of the more recent videos that I've uploaded to my channel. Go ahead and take a look at that one. It was a really cool boat, and it was a blast to operate in the water. It was super fast, and it actually had really good performance, both in pitch and yaw. There was a question that I saw just pop up. Someone was asking about 3D printing in carbon fiber or fiberglass. I considered it? Yeah, sure. I am not at the point right now where I'm willing to invest the thousands of dollars required to get the proper equipment to 3D print in carbon fiber. In my mind, that is overkill times 10. You know, these people that lay up their submarine hulls in Kevlar and, you know, carbon fiber, you know, these are not aircraft. You know, they are not undergoing exceptionally high stresses. You do not need that. Fiberglass is more than adequate, but from a 3D printing perspective, I think ABS plastic is a great way to go. Now, having said that, not by far not the majority of the 3D printers on the market, especially the cheap ones, have the capabilities of printing in ABS plastic because it needs to have an enclosed build chamber. You need to keep the heat up. You need to have a heated build platform and all of that stuff. PLA with carbon fiber, fiberglass. No, I have not experimented with it at all. I've brought this up before. I want you guys to think about this, weigh what I say. I have an ever-growing library of 3D files that people are able to download and print at home. The end product, and I'm gonna show this to you, okay? So this is the Nautilus hull. Let's take a really close look at that. All right. So you've got these striations in here, and this was printed at 0.2 millimeter resolution, which basically means you have 5 layers per millimeter of printing. This build took over almost 250 hours. 250 hours to print. All right. Now, the cool thing about printing is that you can just hit print, and then you can go have dinner, you can go to the movies, you can go do whatever you want. All right. But it's still a lot of work, and the end product that you end up with is by no means of a quality equal to a quality kit that was based off of a master pattern that was laid up in fiberglass and gel coat. You really can't compare the two, all right? My thought about this is that, you know, somebody looking to get into the hobby can save a little bit of money on their hull by 3D printing their first one. It's great. It gives you the chance to build all of your linkages, to understand the methodology behind building up the RC submarines. You are not going to save massive amounts of cash. You might save a few $100s. But if you got a 3D printer, it's tons and tons of fun. And it also gives you the opportunity to build some models that are not readily available as you know, fiberglass and resin kits. So basically what I'm getting at is these 3D printed hulls are the gateway drug to real RC submarines. When you get serious about this, you're gonna want to have, you know, a large scale RC submarine. It's gonna be, you know, 6 or 7 feet long. You're not going to be, you know, building these out of 3D printed parts. They're going to be professionally built and museum quality, and then you'll have tons and tons of fun. John asked, how do you go about modeling these subs? They're basically modeled from blueprints. You import the blueprints into 3D CAD software, and then you do loftings and you begin building, you know, all of the external and internal parts in 3D. That would be a great topic for a video. You know, I'll think about that, and I'll show you what the 3D files look like that these come. And I am a hobbyist when it comes to 3D printing. And there are people, so for example, this Nautilus actually came from files produced by a gentleman by the name of Matt Thor, who is significantly better at it than me. And I don't use the proper software. I kind of hack through it and everything, but they still churn out pretty cool submarines. How How do you build homemade fittings? Because I'm trying to build my own for my Revell Type 7C U-boat. Oh, let's talk about fittings kits. So again, if you followed my channel before, there's been many people who have said, where are the fittings kits for the plastic model kits? I can't build this plastic model without the fittings kits. You guys are terrible. Why don't you make them anymore? The short answer is that if they were to be charged out at the amount of labor, time, and energy that goes into manufacturing them, they would be somewhere in the vicinity of about $400 for a fittings kit, which is exponentially more than the cost of the kit itself. Nobody's willing to pay for it, even though they bellyache that it's not available. Now, we are working right now to bring the fittings kit back in a scaled down version of it. So it is going to have the important pieces in there. So you're going to have all of your control surfaces, your control yokes, your watertight cylinder saddles, and all of that kind of stuff. So watch for that coming out in the near future. Now, if you're talking about how do you build your own, you don't need to build your own. Those kits come with everything that you need. You've got control surfaces. They're just plastic. What you need to do is drill into them and insert a control shaft. And then as a receiver for that control shaft, you need to insert a bushing into the model itself that will accept it. So see what you've got in there. You've got everything that you need, except when we're talking about saddles for the watertight cylinder, and that is just made from plastic. Plastic. I buy this like PVC plastic sheet. This is 1/4 inch by the 2 foot by 4 foot sheet, and it's cheap. You just cut it with normal hand tools or power tools, and you can build anything out of it, all right? And I understand that for a lot of people, if you don't have the basic fabrication skills, that's going to sound like a daunting task. Those saddles are not rocket science. They're just little like half round curls of plastic sheets, all right? And as I said before, all of the control surfaces are also already included in those model kits. You just need to install the shafts into them, all right? If that is too much for you, you're gonna need to buck up for a proper kit, all right? Everybody's super attracted to the $100 price tag for these plastic model kits. But they don't understand that it is significantly more work than buying a properly engineered and purpose-built RC Submarine kit. So bear that in mind when you're making your decision about what model kit to go. That particular gentleman was talking about the Revell Type 7. That's a 72nd scale model kit. And hey, let me show you. So this is another kit by Revell of Germany, the Type 9, and it's bigger than the Type 7, but you know, like, it is still pretty tiny when you think about it. This one accepts a 2.5 inch cylinder. This is a decent size for a lot of people. I'm a big sub guy, maybe not this big, but bigger, you know, than this. You know, that Nautilus and this Type 7, this is more my size, you know, kind of boat. But what I'm getting at, you know, the price differential for a complete kit for, you know, a fully outfitted Revell Type 7, you know, maybe you're going to be at $1,100 for everything with all of your cylinders and electronics and radio and all of that stuff. For like $200 or $300 more, you can get into the purpose-built 48 scale, much bigger Type 7 kit from ARC Model, and that is purpose-built for RC operation. It includes all of the brass bushings. They're already installed, all of the control surfaces with stainless steel rods. You've got full assembly instructions. It's a big difference, right? So just bear that in mind. Cheapest is not always the best, particularly when you factor in your time. and frustration in building it. All right, so there's nickel's worth of free advice from the RC SubGuy. Cheapest is not always best. We could talk about Chinese stuff all day if you wanted to go down that route, but we don't need to beat that particular dead horse in this conversation today. Captain Nate wants to talk about what are ideal pond conditions for running submarines. Are underwater weeds and plants important things to consider when running subs in a natural setting? So I would say, realistically, yes, all of those things are important. There's a few things that you're going to want to take into consideration. First is the actual water itself. To what degree is that water contaminated with chemical, mineral, or biological contaminants? Because all three of those are going to significantly affect the effective range of your radio gear and your ability to control your RC submarine while submerged. All right? Fresh water, perfectly fresh water, is an excellent conductor for the radio signals. I personally brought my sub to over 30 feet of depth and still maintain control in perfectly fresh water back when I lived in Victoria, BC, in the beautiful, pristine water that we had to play in up there. But as soon as you start adding things like chlorine or salt, it is going to be terrible. It's gonna significantly reduce it. My particular pool at our house here has far too much chlorine. If I get over 3 feet of depth, I'll lose signal, and the failsafe will kick in and bring the sub back up to the surface. Submerged weeds are certainly something that you need to worry about, but typically you're going to be operating your boat at what is termed to be periscope depth. So as you run your boat, you are going to be keeping it just under the surface. So the water is going to be right about here on the boat. So just the periscope sticking out of the water, hence the term periscope depth. The cool thing about that is you've got the safety factor of it, of course, being close to the surface. You've got a visual representation of where the boat is at all times. And you don't lose track of it as you're operating it. And of course, the last thing is with that visual indicator, when the boat is fully submerged, as exciting and heart pumping and adrenaline filled as it is to hope that you know where it is, you actually do when you see that periscope up. So with that being the case, unless the submerged weeds are, within a foot of the surface, in which case it would be a very weedy pond, you probably don't have too much to worry about there. Talking about ideal conditions, you're looking at a fresh water pond with a sandy bottom, clear water. That's what you're after. If you can find it, that's great. Even better, to be quite honest, if you have the opportunity to get into a large swimming pool, athletic complex or something like that, you've got perfectly clear water. You got to watch the chlorine content. But again, you're going to be able to see your submarine really, really well. If you take a look on YouTube, there's tons and tons of videos running submarines in chlorinated swimming pools, but the visibility is superb, and it's a lot of fun to operate the boats in that kind of setting. So let's see if we run anything, if we missed anything in here. Good sources for blueprints. The blueprints are everywhere. What I would actually say, we have some forums or some threads on our forums for resource materials for boats like that. I would check that out. And if you're after a specific one and you're not just a collector, which many people are, they collect the blueprints because they want to collect blueprints. But if you're after a specific boat, just post it up. We've got a few people who are veritable cornucopias of blueprint and reference material for almost any submarine that you could possibly imagine, and many, many that you could not possibly. So I would definitely recommend that you do that. Head over to the forums, sign up for your free accounts, and post away. let's see if I missed anything else in here. All right, I think we're good. Let's move on here. I promised that we were going to talk about RC submarine battery technology. But before we do that, I want to talk specifically about drivetrains. Because I don't know how many times I've gotten the following email from an individual. Dear sir, you sold me an RC submarine, but the drive shafts do not perfectly line up to the most exact millimeter with the output shafts of the subdriver that I paid so much money for. What are you trying to pull? So, what people need to realize is that just like a vehicle, getting power from the motor to the wheels is not typically a direct line. In this particular case, what you need to do is create an intermediate shaft that's going to transfer the power at an angle and allow you to transfer that power from the output shafts of the cylinder to the propellers, which are going to be doing the work of pushing the submarine through the water. So I'm going to be talking specifically about the German Type 7 or any other boat perhaps with dual shafts, parallel shafts or close to parallel shafts that need to cant inwards to meet the output shafts of your watertight cylinder. However, if you have a single shaft boat and you mounted your cylinder so that the output shaft is not precisely along the center line of the boat, this is 100% applicable as well. All right, so let's take a look at how I do it. This is a mock-up that I did, and this is all out of scale, and it's like a weird-ass prop and looks all kind of strange. This is how I typically accomplish it. We have a propeller. We have the propeller shaft that runs to a universal joint. So as we spin this thing, you can see that that angle remains constant, but it is transferring rotational torque to that prop. And we have our intermediate shaft that runs into a nylon dog bone. And that nylon dog bone interfaces with the output shaft of the subdriver via this dog bone adapter, which slips over this little guy right here, kind of like this. And I apologize because I'm doing all of this one-handed, but as you can see, I spin the shaft, goes down there through the universal joint, and it spins the propeller. Magical. And look at this. We've got like a crazy outward angle that goes to a crazy inward angle that goes to another parallel angle, and it all still works. So this gives you a tremendous amount of flexibility when you're setting up your drivetrain. The ARC model starter kit now comes with the 4mm universal universal joints that you need to create these, as well as the adapter for the dog bones. And basically these dog bones, when you get them, they look more like, let me see if I can find one here. They typically look like this. So you just cut it in half and you sleeve it with varying diameters of brass tubing until you get it to your shaft size. Not rocket science at all. What you want to make sure that you do, and you can barely see it on this particular example that I have here, but right here, you can see that we drilled a 1/16 hole and we ran a 1/16 inch brass pin right through the whole thing, and that locks it in place so that that dog bone cannot spin free of that adapter that you built. All right. So that is the way that we run output shafts at angles for any RC submarine that does not have them specifically perfectly aligned all down the center line, which would be nice in an ideal world, but that's not the world that we live in. Question from Curious Orange. Can an RC submarine dive or sink using the control surfaces only. Yes, it is what is called a dynamic diver. In that particular case, the boat is ballasted slightly positive, and the control surfaces, the forward and rear dive planes, work to pull the boat underneath the surface of the water. So they're always exerting some degree of downward force on the hull to keep it submerged. In the case of emergency, you simply take your hands off the controls. The boat coasts to, slows down to the point where that force exerted by the dive planes cannot overcome the buoyancy of the boat, and it surfaces. So to be brutally honest with you, that is how I set up the vast majority of my boats. I find it more fun to drive, and it is exponentially safer to do so when you do it that way. Now, that's not saying that you can't have a ballast tank, because as I said before, you want to have, for a dynamic diver, you want to have the boat ballasted just slightly positive. So just say maybe half of the conning tower is sitting above the surface of the water. So it's got that small degree of positive buoyancy. But that's no fun to drive around on the surface, and so you want that ballast tank to pull the boat back up to the surface. You're going to pump all of the ballast out and get to full surfaced waterline while still retaining the ability to have complete diving ability. Question from Tiberius: why not use metal dogs? I don't know what you mean by metal dogs. Maybe you're talking about the nylon dog bones. Sure, go ahead. I've got some over there, but the nylon ones are cheaper and exceptionally strong. I've never had one fail in the 2 decades that I have been building boats. So if you want to use metal, but I'll be using nylon unless I happen to have a metal one laying around, in which case I'll use a metal one in that particular case. I want to, on that topic, I want to talk just really briefly. When I do tutorials, when I do build blogs, do not, by any stretch of the imagination or for any reason whatsoever, take my word as law. I do not profess to be the world's foremost foremost authority on RC submarines. There's always somebody who knows more than me, and about a specific thing, it could be a complete novice that knows more than me. What I'm presenting to you are simply my opinions based upon my experience building RC submarines. Take that as you will. Understood. All right. With 15 minutes left in our 1 hour time slot, let's talk about batteries. I'm going to pull some out of my battery locker. I'll be right back. So, here we go. The 3 battery technologies that I'm going to talk about. We'll talk about the old school technology first, all right? And probably the one that most people are familiar with, and that's sealed lead acid batteries. Your car battery is, or used to be, typically sealed lead acid batteries. These are pretty cool units. They're big, they're heavy, they take up a lot of room, but they're exceptionally robust. And the cool thing about them is you can run them in the water without having to waterproof them. So if you've got a big boat, if you've got the room, you need ballast anyway, why not put some big batteries in there? Typically you can put them sideways, put your cylinder up on top, and now you've got some ballast in the keel of your boat. If you can't put them in the keel there, put them in the front, but keep that weight as low as possible. Again, the biggest thing that I want to talk about in terms of these things is you can run them in the wet. You do not need to waterproof them. They're perfectly fine sitting in the water. You just want to make sure specifically the positive battery terminal has some waterproofing on it. You can silicone it, whatever. If you run it exposed, you're going to get some green corrosion build up, and eventually, after a long period of time, it is going to fail. So talking about sealed lead acid batteries, one of the big things that you need to make sure that you realize is you need to charge them in a well-ventilated area. If for whatever reason you want to keep it in the hull of your submarine while you charge it, if you overcharge it, these things do something called gassing, and they gas hydrogen. And the cool thing about that is if you happen to get a spark in the vicinity, you're going to have an explosion, and that will be very exciting and result in an exceptionally realistic explosion of your RC submarine. Not a good thing. Take it out of your boat, keep it in a well-ventilated area. Do not overcharge it. I highly recommend for all battery types the use of a computerized battery charger that monitors the voltage and in many cases the temperature of a battery to make sure that it's not overcharged. All right. Proper charging of a sealed lead acid battery needs to happen in stages, okay, and at varying voltages. You can just hook up a transformer and it will charge, but it's not the right way of doing it. So again, computerized battery charger is probably the way you want to do it. Smart charger, multi-stage smart charger. That's what you want. Most of the common chargers, by the way, I use, the one that I have is out by Tenergy, and it allows the charging of multiple battery types, nickel metal hydride, lithium polymer, lithium ion, and sealed lead acid, and it's got all of the sensors and software built into it for proper charging in the unit. So, just so that you know, the charge rate of a sealed lead acid battery is approximately 25% of the rated battery capacity. So for example, if you got a 4 amp hour battery, this is 2.3, but let's pretend it's 4, charge it at 1 amp at 2.4 volts per cell. So for a 12 volt battery, you bring it charging at 14.4 volts. And for those of you who had the old school cars with the voltmeter on the dashboard in the behind the wheel there that you could watch, you'll know that your car voltage always at 14.4. That alternator is putting that out constantly to keep that battery charged up. All right. So yes, that is sealed lead acid battery. Then we've also got these batteries called nickel metal hydride, and these were all the rage a little while ago because they kind of replaced the nickel cadmium batteries that were so common for the longest time. Nickel metal hydride, the interesting thing about these is that you should, in theory, fully discharge a nickel metal hydride battery before you charge it. And again, smart chargers have these processes built into it, so they can fully discharge a battery before charging it back up. And the reason that you do that is because you want to avoid battery memory. And for those of you who are kind of fanatic about this kind of things, particularly for cell phones, back in the day, you wanted to make sure that you didn't always keep the battery topped up. You needed to fully discharge it and fully raise it. Otherwise, what would end up happening is your capacity would drop over time. Charge rate is 10% of the battery's rated capacity for hour. So if you've got for example, 1,000 milliamp hour or 1 amp nickel metal hydride battery, you would charge it at 100 milliamps or 0.1 amps for 15 hours. That is ideally, all right? Again, smart chargers can do it much faster because they are constantly monitoring everything that's going on. You can also charge up to 3.33 times or of the complete capacity of the battery for up to 5 hours. So again, that 1,000 milliamp hour, 1 amp battery, you can charge at 300 milliamps for 5 hours. All right, but if you just use that microprocessor controlled battery charger, just plug it in, let it go. You can charge them typically as quickly as like 1.5 hours. So That's a no-brainer. Invest in it. They're like 50 or 60 bucks, but it will save explosions. All right. All right. Lithium polymer batteries. These are kind of all the rage right now. This is a cheap Chinese battery, but still works really, really well. You got two outputs on these. You got the main power output, and then you've got this little charge port adapter. And basically, this allows each individual cell of the battery to be read by the charger. So in this particular case, this is a 3S battery, a 3-cell battery. So you've got 3 positive wires there and 1 negative. Each one of those is an individual cell. So the smart charger can actually charge each individual cell individually to make sure that they're completely balanced. Most lithium polymer batteries can charge at a rate of 1 times their capacity. So for example, if you've got a 3 amp lithium polymer battery, you can charge it at 3 amps over the course of an hour. Some really good lithium polymer batteries you can charge at double that. And then there's ultra super high performance like RC car and aircraft lithium polymer batteries can charge it up to 15 times. So they're like super ultra fast charging. So there you go. Both nickel metal hydride and lithium polymer batteries don't like getting wet. All right. They're not really designed for it. And lithium is super exciting when it meets water. So if you have a hole in the casing and water happens to get into that, you can have all sorts of fireworks and scale explosions happening with your RC submarine. So for the most part, those batteries will live inside your watertight cylinder. Many people have elected to simply smear silicone all over these and hope that the shrink wrap keeps the water out, and that may work and it may not. So just bear that in mind. This is not like heavy duty plastic. This is like saran wrap. I don't know that I would particularly trust it, particularly when you're shoehorning it in and out of your RC submarine. Do a proper job. Put it in a complete watertight cylinder. Craig just asked about battery gas. Already touched on that, Craig. You're probably late to the party. The only one that really off gases, as far as I know, and I could be wrong, is the sealed lead acid battery. The other two do not. What I will talk about, everybody is always like, well, can I put a charging port inside my watertight cylinder so I don't need to take the batteries out? Here's Bob's advice to you. Don't be a lazy ass. All right? Write that down. Don't be a lazy ass. If you just count on the fact that your watertight cylinder is indeed 100% watertight and charge your batteries inside, then basically you've got no need to crack them open. If any water is inside, even a drop or two, over time, it's going to corrode the sensitive electronics that you've got inside your watertight cylinder. And your battery compartment, while it is a separate compartment in your watertight cylinder, is connected to your highly sensitive electronics watertight compartment via a tube that allows the power cables to come through. Therefore, the moisture can also get in there as well. So Bob's advice is you want to make sure after every run that you completely extract your watertight cylinder and open it up completely and keep it stored opened completely so that any remnants of moisture completely evaporate over time and don't damage your highly sensitive and extremely expensive electronics. All right, so make sure that you keep that cracked open. All right, question from Dana talking about, has anyone made an i400 that launches RC planes? No, not as far as I know, but it's possible. Those crazy Australians do like insane crazy things, but let's just think about that, all right? So the small RC aircraft is probably gonna be what? 1 foot wingspan. So you're probably going to need to have an I-400 that is something in the vicinity of 1/10 scale, which is probably 30 feet in length. You do the math, dude. Like, seriously. Probably not. Sounds cool, but let's be realistic here. I mean, maybe if it launches little paper airplanes that just like fly up into the air and crash into the water, doable, I guess, but I don't know what the attraction for that would be. On that note, you know, anything that you can imagine is possible. So stop asking me, all right? Anything that you can imagine is possible given time, talent, and resources. All right? I guarantee it. You ask me to do anything, and I'll say yes, absolutely. And it's going to cost you $1 million, and it's going to take 5 years, for example. All right? So asking whether something is possible or not is kind of a silly question. What you should be asking is, what's the feasibility of it? How realistic is it? What are the considerations that I need to think about? You know, if you're just looking to get a cheap thrill and see if somebody's got the link, just go on YouTube and search for it. Odds are good it's somewhere on YouTube. But that's kind of the cool thing about almost anything, is if you've got the time, effort, and determination to get something done, you can do it. All right. I've known many people getting into this hobby for the very first time with no RC sub experience and have built exceptionally incredible subs. So it's all, like I said, a function of time, energy, and resources. Time, talent, and resources. All right. Well, there you go. We talked about batteries. We talked about all my projects. Talked about many other things. And we're right at the 57-minute mark, as luck would have it. Just a bit of an update for you for, you know, the Nautilus dry docks and this whole COVID situation. You guys, as I mentioned at the very beginning, are going crazy building stuff, which is absolutely awesome. On the flip side, what you've done in many cases is clean me out of inventory. And the challenge to that is that it's exceptionally hard to get my inventory built back up because many of my suppliers have been hamstrung by this whole situation. You know, specifically, there are a few that are running, you know, between 1/10 and 1/4 of their typical manpower. And there's also shipping restrictions. I just got a radio sent back from a customer that ordered one out of the Arab Emirates, and they're not delivering mail there at all, period. So that got shipped back. So that's exciting. We get to pay to ship that all over again. Tiberius wants to know about torpedoes. Yeah, that's like the #1 question. I'm not going to go into that because I've got a lot of videos posted up. You're going to have to do some research on that to see what's available. But I'll update you. That big 30th scale submarine is going to have operational 32nd scale torpedoes, electric powered with a 5-second timer. If things go well, those will be kitted and offered for purchase. Don't ask me when. Don't ask me how much. It will happen, though. I'm doing my best here, guys. Primary concern is making sure that my customer is looked after, and then we'll get into those kits. Following that, I have a 148th Type 7 U-boat kit that's coming up, and that customer has asked and ordered for torpedoes as well. And I have successfully prototyped and tested a 148th scale gas torpedo system, and that is working out really well as well. Again, once that is all proofed out and installed, then yeah, maybe we'll kit that up and have that available for purchase as well. So hey, torpedoes on the horizon. I'll give you guys like 60 seconds to come up with any last minute questions, but I think we're up to everybody's tolerance for my speeches, and we'll let you go. Oh, I almost forgot like the most important thing. Well, it's not the most important. It's kind of important to me. I think it's really cool. Hopefully you guys will be interested in it as well. So with my website, with my company, the Nautilus Dry Docks. There's two kind of like memberships, all right? You go on the website and you like log in, you create an account, and that just allows you to shop and save your information and payment options and all of that fun stuff, and that's all free. So do that. Obviously, it's a great idea, but right up in the top in the menu, it says something called Join the Dive Tribe. And what the Dive Tribe is, for those of you that don't know, is an exclusive membership for people that really want to get more out of the RC submarine hobby and more from me specifically to give to you. So the Dive Tribe Elite is a membership. It's $49 a year for a year. But what you get from that is a number of big benefits, and I'm running some big stuff right now. So here's the advantages for it. First off, you get coupon codes. Right now, what we're running is $65 off any new MSD subdriver. So immediately, if you're thinking about ordering a subdriver, pay for your membership and you've paid for the cost of membership. So that's a no-brainer. And I run new promotions as often as I can. The members also get exclusive sneak peeks at new products, and they get first crack at buying them. So that's kind of a big thing as well. I've also got two more things going up. I've got a summer contest going up, and I want all of you guys to think about this. Any RC submarine hull or package that you purchase from the Nautilus Dry Docks from this point until the end of summer when I kill it, I'm not going to tell you when, so you better hurry. If you build the boat completely finished, painted, in the water and operational, and you give me photographic and video proof that it is working, I will give you 15% of what you paid for it back in cash. Back in cash, and if you'd like, I'll give you 20% back in-store credit. All right, so you got two options there. All you need to do is build the boat. You got 90 days, 3 months. That's a lot of time. You can do it. Buy the submarine, buy the guts, get it working, get it operational. All right. So this needs to be a package. The submarine and all of the running gear, all of the details are in the Dive Tribe membership page, by the way. But you get that back. All right, so you can save a ton of money in that. All right, so that's a summer promotion starting right now. Anybody that buys has that opportunity. I will obviously know when you bought it. When it's done, you need to let me know. All right, the last thing, every member has access to something that I'm calling the Dive Tribe Gathering, and that's going to be running every 2 weeks. First one is coming up Thursday, May 7th-ish. Dates in the Dive Tribe page. After you get signed up, you can see that. All right. Limited number of winners? No. Every set. If 100 of you do it, 100 of you get that cash back. So the Dive Tribe Gathering, this is a live video interactive presentation via Zoom meeting software. What you do is you let me know in advance, hey, I have a project I want to show off to all of the other members, or I have a problem, I don't know how to fix this. I will allocate to you a time slot and we will go through it in person, one-on-one-ish, with my experience and the collective experience of the entire Dive Tribe membership to help you out. So this is really, a community of people working together to share their projects, to pat each other on the back, to solve problems, to find new products and new vendors. It is exceptionally cool, available only to Dive Tribe Elite members. All right, so if that is not worth $49 a year to you, well, then you can go someplace else and shop. But check it out, all right? Go to the homepage, up at the top, join the Dive Tribe. All the information is there. I went 4 minutes over my time. I apologize. But by all means, if you have any questions, reach out to me at any time. You can be one of the 50 or 60 people that I email back and forth with every morning. That live chat deal is kind of cool. If you hit me up first thing in the morning, like between 4 and 5 a.m., I'm typically at my computer answering emails. All right. We'll get you all looked after. Email me anytime, bob at rc-sub.com, or through the website at any time. There we go. That was a lot to cover. Like I said, it seemed like forever since we chatted. I appreciate every single one of you. You're the reason I can do what I do and the reason I love doing it. So again, I'm going to let you go. You guys have a great end of the week and an awesome weekend. Stay safe. Don't do anything crazy. We'll be through this all together before you know it. My name is Bob Martin, the RC Sub Guy with the NautilusDryDocks.com. Have a great night, everyone. We'll catch you next time.